How's it going, everybody, and welcome to our first episode of Let's Play Tropico 4. I'm not going to waste any time here. I'm going to jump straight in, and we're going to do a sandbox mode game. I kind of hope that this will act as somewhat of a tutorial for any of those of you out there who don't really know how to play, or if you're kind of confused about certain aspects, or if you just want to know where you should start. There are a number of things that you really want to be aware of when you start this game out, and it's easy to get overwhelmed in the early game and just get frustrated and kind of shelf the whole thing. So I'm probably going to do these in 15 to 20 minute increments. We're going to generate a random island because I've pretty much played all the islands they have on file, and I would like them to just make some random ones. I am going to lower our mineral deposits quite a bit because those tend to make the game really, really easy. Let's see, does elevation make it harder or easier? Makes it easier. Okay, so we're going to leave elevation there. Island size we're going to leave there. Vegetation, that's fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and just reduce everything to the center here. Make the game a little more difficult, make the game a little more frustrating because I've played a lot of Tropico, so prominent faction we're gonna leave random. Oh, game length, hold on. There we go. I want this to go all the way up to the year 2000. We're going to make it to the new millennium with El Presidente. We're going to pick a El Pollo Diablo. I've never seen him. We're going to use my custom avatar because I kind of feel like he reflects what I would be like if I was a dictator. He's got a little bit of his like Versace style going on. You know, he's got his Louis. And let's see here. Although, let's see here. I'm torn between the cigar and the shades. I think I'll just go with the shades. It's fine. And then we'll move forward. Name him El Gato del Splatter. And I'm going to randomize everything, and we're just going to see how it lands, and we're just going to deal with it. So 3, 2, 1, and 0. Our background is Silver Spoon, which means that the capitalists like us, we get more tourism, our factory workers work harder, but the communists dislike us. Okay? We were installed by the KGB, which means soldiers don't need a high school education, the USSR likes us, communists like us, so that helps us even out. I think Silver Spoon meant the communists did not like us, so that evens out that. Religious zealot. We have good Middle East relations, and citizens attend church more often. We get some faction respect with the religious. We are cowards, which means the religious like us even more, and we are pompous. And that one might be a little tough to deal with just because it means we can only praise ourselves during our election speeches, which, you know, it's kind of a throwaway thing, but we weren't looking for an easy game here. I am going to show you some of the things that you really want to be aware of when you first start the game up. So I'm going to give the game a second here because it tends to chug a little bit in the early game, and I do want this to be a little seamless. So here you can see we have all of our citizens. This is our presidential palace here with our guards. It'll tell you everybody that's associated with the palace when you click on a building. And the first thing we want to do is we want to pause the game up. What we want to do is we want to click this little smiley face down here. It's going to bring up this overlay. And really we want to take a look at who's the dominant faction on our island right now. So the capitalists have 9 citizens. Up here you can look and see how many citizens they have. And since you're up for re-election, you really want to... I have free elections because it makes the game a little bit more complicated. You do want to start catering early to the people who have the giant portion of the population allocated to them. The communists have 10, which is good because the communists like us. The intellectuals actually surprisingly have a decently sized manpower too. The religious, not so much. The militarists, not so much. The environmentalists, this is a little bit of a surprise. I have never seen a game that favored environmentalists, so that random may bite us there. That's going to make our game quite a bit more difficult. The environmentalists tend to be the most difficult people to please in terms of gameplay, just because pollution happens around major cities. So as you grow, you're going to have to deal with that, but for now, our population seems more or less evened out. We're not going to worry about... We have 2 unemployed people here, which you can see from the economy tab. Our foreign relations, our US relations are pretty terrible. Our USSR relations are good, and our relations with the Middle East are pretty terrible as well, but we're not going to worry too much about that. The new factions don't really seem to affect much, in my experience. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look around now, and we started out with some bunk houses, which are cheap housing. Over here you can see the housing quality, and you can adjust the rent for that housing up and down. We're gonna leave them at $1 or 1 unit. It's just so, because it's cheap housing. These are bunk houses, they aren't really worth that much. We do have the Teamster's office and a sweatshop. I think I would like to, first things first, we do have some shanties as well. I'm going to take a look around the island and see what we got going on. We actually got a fairly flat island. Looks like we have a... I can't tell if that's a dormant volcano or an active volcano. That's going to kind of play into our gameplay as well. Our island is kind of strangely shaped. I'm not really... The topography is kind of lame. This topography is not nearly as challenging as I would like, but it's fairly flat. Another thing that's really important to building your city is you want to click right here on this overlays menu, and you can see a number of things. Crop conditions are going to be our first. So anything that's really dark green is where you want to build that crop. Banana? We are not banana farmers. Papaya we can get away with. Pineapple we can kind of get away with. Coffee, not so much, except for this little area over here. This is actually going to be kind of a rough island, though. Let's see, tobacco. We have no high altitude. I know tobacco only grows at high altitudes, so tobacco is going to be out. Sugar grows in low altitudes, though, so it looks like we are pretty primed for sugar cropping. I don't really like how these little areas are red. We have these large areas of just worthless land, but we are going to see if that's good for tourism. We're also going to cycle through our natural resources for right now. So it looks like we have an iron deposit fairly close to our city, which is good. Clicking through here, it looks like we have a salt mine here. Oil, we have 2 oil derricks up. And let's take a look. And logging we're pretty primed for. Pastures, but pastures aren't super necessary. We're gonna look at some of our other overlays now. We're gonna look at the island conditions. So it's humid over here. I don't really care about humidity. Our island's beauty is off the charts. So this is an island that we're really gonna want to take advantage of tourism. Tourism is really what we're gonna want to focus on for a large proportion of our island. So I'm gonna go back to my overlay here for crop conditions. We're gonna look at tobacco. We're gonna look at sugar, and we're gonna look at papaya, since I think those are gonna be our staple crops. Even corn can't grow right here, and if you're familiar with the game, corn grows just about anywhere. So if corn can't grow there, you know it's pretty much barren. So I'm thinking I'm gonna want to expand the city out this way on all this worthless land, and I'm gonna kind of want to save some of this more fertile land for other things. This is actually, at first glance, I thought this was going to be an easy island, but actually we have a lot of infertile soil. So this is going to be a tougher island in terms of farming. But we are going to go ahead and turn off our overlays here. And what I like to do first things first is go to infrastructure and start dragging some roads around. I'm going to try not to talk too much, but this is a game that's going to be fun to narrate because I like to justify my decisions. And let's see what else we have going on here. I do want to keep crop conditions open because I do want to tailor this starting area very much around where I can't grow. So we're going to go with infrastructure once again. Roads don't cost that much, so don't worry about building lots of roads in the early game. So basically I'm going to want to just follow this kind of dead zone here, and we'll just see how it goes. I think I'm going to make that into kind of a block. And another... Oop. Did I mess that up? No. Okay, we're going to do another small block there. We are going to kind of stretch this out. I'm going to overlap a tad with this fertile land. Oh, it won't let me do that at all. Never mind then. So we'll just kind of dead end this out here. And we'll go down like so. And I am going to have that kind of loop the loop here. We're just going to get our first little areas kind of ironed out. Let's see if I can get that lined up more or less. There we are. So that's not going to allow us to do that, but we can connect it like so. And we're looking good. So this is kind of the layout of our first little starting area. And really, what I also like to do is just leave the game paused for now. Just kind of set up and figure out what you need to get done. So before exports, you'll notice we have a dock over here. This dock is important to us because all of our exports go there. And that's the only place we have right now that's going to be doing exports. You want to keep tourism away from this location, but you do want to have as many roads from your main city running to this as possible so that your teamsters can start running supplies. I am going to set up all these tenements for destruction because I don't like their position. I don't like their position one little bit. So we are going to go ahead and start the game up now, just a little faster. We do want to adapt to the situation quick, though. We don't want to get ourselves into trouble. Let's see, what are these? These are probably corn farms. Yeah, I know they start you out with corn farms a lot of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and go to infrastructure. We're going to demolish these tenements here. We definitely don't want to demolish our presidential palace because that's where we live. Once we demolish those, I am going to start looking into housing, though. We're going to get some tenements here. I don't want uglier tenements near my palace because we're going to put some touristy type stuff over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building up tenements over in this direction a little bit. And facings... Oops, I closed the menu out. Facings... Let me see if I can fit two back to back here, like so. And it looks like we can't, but that's fine because we'll try and fill in other things behind it. So, we're going to get our first tenements out here in the desert. Rotate them so the front doors are in the right spots. And that's going to be our main construction for now. Another thing we're going to want to get up and running is our lumberyard situation. So while they're working here, I am going to take my overlays and I'm going to look at my natural resources and logging. Our logging seems fairly fertile, so I'm going to take my infrastructure and I'm going to run a road out this way. Just a nice straight road. And there we are. And that cost us a little bit of money, but it's fine. And we definitely want to keep deforestation and things away from our natural touristy area. So I'm thinking this little bay over here, you can see we have kind of some Aztec or some Mayan ruins going on. Some kind of, you know, Native American ruins going over here. We can use that as a tourist location. This whole area, I'm willing to bet, is probably going to be pretty high beauty. Take a look here. It's not in that menu. Island conditions. There we are. Beauty. So it's a little less beautiful over here. Our absolute best touristy locations seem to be just in this big hook-shaped area. So yeah, this is definitely going to be my touristy area, which means I can kind of keep farming to itself over here on this end of the island. Maybe I'll put in some canneries and some methods by which we can catch some fish, maybe can them up, maybe do some other things. So the game is still running, and you'll see that little workers will get dropped off by these trucks, and they'll start actually working on the buildings. Hopefully they'll get these tenements knocked out because we do have a lot of shanties right now. Shanties only show up if you don't have enough housing for the rest of your society. Our happiness is dropping, and really we want to avoid... This is another important part of your... I should have talked about this earlier. Happiness, you definitely want to keep all these numbers up above like 40-ish if you can. If they drop below 40-ish, it becomes an issue, and people in your society that want those things start running the risk of becoming rebels. So our liberty's a little low, but liberty's not something we're going to be able to do anything about for a while. While we get our infrastructure up and running, we are going to be more or less relying on foreign aid. There's not going to be a whole lot of income coming into our society right now. It's more or less just going to be handouts from the US, and there we are. We're going to make sure that that connects rather nicely. And maybe I'll swing this across right here. There we are. And maybe subdivide that a little further. I think I can get away with a little more. There we are. And so, that's a pretty good layout for now. I am pretty pleased with our island layout. We are more or less set up in terms of tourism. We aren't super rich in terms of natural resources, but we are in a good situation for everything else. So I think this is where I'm going to cut off episode 1. This has been Splattercat. If you enjoyed the videos, please do like, comment, or subscribe. They will keep coming. This is going to be an ongoing series. It's probably going to be reasonably long. I do like games like this that are Sims type games. So I will see you in episode 2.